Well, good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining us for this online protest. I want to tell you something. Back in 1963, um, it was the pictures of young people being water hosed, billy clubbed, and dogs being sicked on them that was shown all across the television stations across this nation. And it mortified so many people who knew not what was happening in the southern United States of America, and even people who knew it. It,
What
it,
did you
it
say?
mortified them. It frustrated them, it angered them, and they were rallied into action. And eventually, because of the actions of the people on the streets of Birmingham, Alabama, young people standing up for the right to protest, and people seeing how they were being mistreated, we saw change come. Unfortunately, as we move forward to 2020, recently, our nation was drawn into what people have been saying for the past 8 years, that Black Lives Matter, when we saw the horrific killing of Ahmaud Arbery, and then heard about the horrific killing of Breonna Taylor, and then we all saw the very senseless, inhumane treatment of George Floyd. 8 minutes, almost 9 minutes, an officer sworn to serve and protect took the very life out of George Floyd, and the entire nation has now been rallied because of the senselessness of this act. And people are leaning in all over and wanting to have their voices heard. And so many of us, uh, as a result of COVID-19, have not been able to get out of our houses and get in the streets in peaceful protest. And we thank those young people for standing in the gap for all of us during this time. And so tonight, I want to thank Drew Katoa, who called me from Silicon Valley and said she wanted to lend her gift of pulling together this online protest and combine it with the King Center, so that those of you who want to be out there on the streets but can't for whatever reason can still be a part of the protest. We are live tonight with an online protest demanding justice. No justice, no peace. And we are calling for a lot of things tonight, but I'm joined by Bonita Hampton Smith, who is the producer of our beloved community talks at the King Center. And she and I are just going to be talking to different people tonight about what is going on and things that we can be involved in. And we want to hear your voices. We want to hear your protests. We want to galvanize the nation. As they are in the streets, we are online protesting, because we know that this was extremely horrific and inhumane, and we want real change, and we want to dismantle systemic racism and white supremacy in this country, and we want to deconstruct and see reconstructed policing. And so, Bonita, welcome tonight. Thank you for joining me and being here with me for the next several minutes as we have this online protest.
And thank you, Dr. King. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for being the voice of reason. Thank you for echoing your father, his spirit, and all that he stood for as it relates to nonviolence. I really appreciate the fact that you have been speaking and making sure that you amplify those protesters. And I do say
Mhm.
protesters who are out there protesting nonviolently and raising the consciousness of America. So I really appreciate your leadership in that regard. So thank
And
you.
yeah, and thank you. And tonight we want you to know we have three goals of the online protest, because we believe we have to move uh, in sync with the protest, with action, and we've got to galvanize people around action so that we can begin to see change. And so we're calling in concert with the family and with so many of those voices on the streets that are protesting peacefully. Those are the voices that we are echoing, not the disruptors. We are echoing their voices, that the three officers that have not been arrested be arrested and charged with first degree murder, that the third degree murder charge against officer, I can't remember his name, that the charges against him be elevated to first-degree murder. That's the first thing we're calling for. We hope you agree with us. The second thing that we're calling for is that we're demanding that the FBI open a formal case to prosecute the four men for violating the civil rights of George Floyd. And then the third thing is we are calling for the resurrection of some legislation. Last year, Congressman Hakeem Jeffries introduced H.R. 4408 in honor of Eric Garner. It's called Eric Garner Excessive Use of Force Prevention Act of 2019, come forward to 2020. And you know, Eric Garner said, I can't breathe. George uh, uh, Floyd said, I can't breathe. And so it's time to ban the chokehold, ban the chokehold from being used by law enforcement. The chokehold must not be used against citizens detained for questioning and or doing arrest. And so those are the three things that we are calling for on this online protest. And as we keep conversing, we might call for some other things. But
Yeah.
let's enter this conversation and invite our brother, a CNN commentator, Bakari Sellers, who has made his voice very clear and known. And we just want to talk to him about media because Bakari, as you know, it was media that made it possible for a Southern movement to be elevated to a national movement when those kids were water hose dogs sicked on them and billy clubs. And that's when people started realizing, oh my God, we've got to do something. It's media that, not media, but the social media in this instance, that brought to our attention through video what happened with George Floyd. And so there's a role that media plays, and we believe that media has a responsibility, and we want to talk about that tonight. And so we just want to thank you for lending your voice tonight. And Benita, you know, you and I have been talking about Bakari. You were sharing some things
Yeah.
with me and why you thought it
Yeah.
was so important that we hear from my friend.
Yeah. So, Bakari, can you share with us, from your perspective, media's role and responsibility
Sure.
in how we cover and tell this story of what's happening out in the streets with our protesters?
So the first thing that I have to tell you is you're going to hear some noise in the background. Those are my 16, 17-month-old twins, and they are the reason that we
Hey,
fight.
Hey,
So
they're part of the protest. Hey,
they
that's
are part. You
right.
hear them? No,
They're lifting their
they're
voice,
singing their
lifting
own
their
language.
voice. That's right.
They've already learned no justice, no peace.
Right.
And so, and Dr. King, let me just say thank you so very much, because I'm a child of the movement as well. And I look to you for the way that you carry your father's legacy and your mother's legacy. I look to you for the fact that you have never lost your purpose and you're intentional and purposeful in everything that you do. And I look to you for the fact that no matter how difficult or tough our road may be, you always are guided by the light of justice, and let that be our North Star. And so let me first just say thank you to you and Benita. You know, we text each other whenever we need each other, and you're
Yes.
always responsive.
Yeah.
And so I just want to say thank you so much. I only have a few minutes tonight, so blame it on the schedule. I'm rushing back over to CNN from the same chair, throw my tie on and go to CNN to talk about exactly what you're talking about. And let me just say that what we are trying to focus on in the media and what we have to remain cognizant of is that this is not just about George Floyd. This is not just about Ahmaud Arbery. This is not just about Breonna Taylor, but this is about years and years, of decades and centuries
Absolutely.
of institutional racism and systemic injustice. And it's boiled over into the streets. People like to compare this to 1968, and I think it's accurate but not complete. This is 1968 means 1918. That's what it means. We have racism that is killing Black folk in the street. And we also have racism that's killing us through COVID-19. And so we have to make sure we analyze it as such. And when you talk about the way the media covers it, I am hopeful and I push that they get more voices on that are the organizers of marches, that are the grassroots advocates and activists, those that are actually out there doing the work, that we cover the fact that this is a 95, 97% nonviolent protest in the image of your father. But we also, I have to say that, and I know it drives you crazy. It drives me crazy when these folks want to tell us to go home and be peaceful because that's what Dr. King would have done. And they try to whitewash his legacy and forget that he was a true revolutionary.
Yes.
And that Dr. King, he condemned rioting, he condemned
Right.
looting, but he
He
said that
did.
he had to understand it. He said
Yes.
that he knew that it was the language of the unheard. And if he was going to condemn the riots, he also had to condemn the conditions that led to
Exactly.
them. And so
Right.
I hope that the media covers this with layers. I hope that the media covers it with compassion, and I hope the media covers it by giving Black folk some sense of their humanity. Let me also tell you that one of the biggest days we're going to have on TV is going to be next Monday at the memorial service for George Floyd. And my prayer is that we remember him, and we remember him by making sure that this cycle ends. Because
Yeah.
Dr. King, you know this so well, that recently we've been having death, anger, passion on the streets,
Mm.
followed by memorial, grieving,
Mm.
and then we do it
Yes.
all over again.
Yes.
And I'm ready to break that cycle. My kids
Yeah.
are, I have a 15-year-old and I have 17-month-old twins, and they do not deserve to grow up in a country like this. And so we are going to do everything we can to make sure that we create a more perfect union in the images of people like my father and people like your mother and father. And I remind everyone who thinks that somehow this is not American. Well, the blood of our families literally runs through the soil of this great country. And we're going to continue to be advocates for truth and justice, whether or not it's in the media, whether or not it's on the streets. And who would have ever guessed that Dr. King was leading a protest online? That had,
Live.
the world has come full circle, isn't
I tell you, isn't that something?
Right.
Yes, we have, everybody has to be included in some way.
Right.
And unfortunately, because of COVID, I think more people would have been on those streets. So I want to thank you. Thank you for what you represent. Thank you for always keeping us focused in the media on what the real issue is.
Yeah.
When people want to try to focus on the disruptors, and we get that that's going on, you keep bringing us back to what this is really about.
Yes.
And we have to keep doing that. We have to keep on message. We have to remind people, even when they get off, even in our different circles, this is what it's about. This is about justice. It's about the years of systemic racism and white supremacy. And we can't just focus on it, though. We got to do the work.
You got to do the
And,
work.
and that's what we're trying to do right.
Faith without
Works
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 is
is
dead.
dead.
dead. It's
Thank you guys. I
dead.
love you so much. Thank you for having
Thank
me. And
you.
I'm here.
Love you
Bonita, you
too.
know that you call me whenever you need me, Bonita. I know you will.
I will definitely call you. Hey, tell us about your book real quick. Let
Look, My
everybody
Ministry
know.
Country is out now. And I love this picture because little Black boys can pick up this image and see themselves.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's a book about our struggle. It's a book about
Yes.
protest. It's a book about growing up Black in America. And I hope people give it a chance. Dr. King, people like Julian Bond, your father, Stokely Carmichael, Kathleen Cleaver, Majeska Simpkins, Septima Clark. I live for them. And I put my heart and my truth in this book. So I hope people give it a chance. Thank you so much, Bonita. Have a blessed day, you and Dr.
Thank
King.
you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Bakari.
Bakari.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Well, our online protest is continuing, and we want to hear from you because we set this platform up for the people,
Yes.
the people who want to participate and have their voices heard, and really have it heard past all the noise that has been going on in the midst of everything, and try to craft some agenda around these three things that we want to push some momentum on. We want to make sure that we really get something to come out of this moment. When you have a victory, like Montgomery was the victory for the movement, you build a groundswell, and it becomes a watershed moment, and it catches on and it builds people up. And people need to be built up right now because people, some people don't have hope in this moment. I have a lot of hope. I have a lot of hope because Benita, the Black Lives Matter movement has just been constantly keeping it before us. And so, you know, we want to hear from you.
Yes. We want you to start beginning to chat. We want you to send us your questions. Dr. King will be answering questions. We also want you to make sure, and we're going to provide some names, and we're going to start sharing with you throughout the week, your representatives, your senators, because it's important that we get this legislation back on the floor, that we get this legislation heard. So you need to reach out 4408 and make sure that we get this legislation back on the floor, heard, supported by your state representatives, your senators, because it's time for all of us to breathe. Dr. King said, what affects one directly affects us all indirectly. So it's time for us to all breathe. It's time for us to move with fervency, and it's time for us to move with determination to make sure that we win freedom for the next generation. So please put your questions on there. Let Dr. King know if you have any questions. She's going to be answering questions tonight. We're getting ready to bring on one of our Nonviolence 365 instructors. Dr. Vanetta West will be joining us. So, Dr. King, I want, you've been sharing the importance of what these young people, and I call them young because, I've hit that 50 mark, so I call them youngins now. So,
You
but
ain't
you,
50.
yeah, so you've been sharing how it's moved your heart to see young people out there protesting. Can you share with us just what do you want to say to them to keep them motivated and keep them encouraged, those who are trying to do the right thing?
I just want to say to those young people, thank you, first of all. I want them to know that we appreciate their energy, we appreciate their determination, we appreciate their strength and their courage, more importantly, to stand up and to stand up with a strength like never before and a determination that we will not go back, that we will have results from this. So I want to say that first, and I just want to echo my father's words in 1963. He said, "We must forever conduct our struggle, our protest." I want to say on the high plane of dignity and discipline, and so continue to engage in your nonviolent protest, and know just because people are not there with you, people are with you. People are working in different ways. In the movement that my father led, people played so many different roles, and those roles were just as important as the role that many of you are playing out there. There are people that have been given money to make sure those of you who have stood in the tradition of nonviolent protest are bailed out of jail. There are people using their influence, and that's what I really want to talk about, because that's what is so important right now. There are people who have such great influence. Some people can make a call and just cause things to literally turn around in these systems and structures in America, and they can have backdoor conversations. I mean, I've been witnessing some of that happening as we speak here, even here in the state of Georgia, and I think this is the moment where people are really leaning in. And I want to say to my brothers and sisters out there protesting, don't give up, because they're leaning in. And they're not just leaning in trying to get it over with. They're talking in ways I've never heard them talk about. They're talking in ways like, what do I need to do to undo these things? Teach me, show me. I've never heard a lot of white people saying that. I'm just going to be frank. And this is an online protest for all people. But I have never heard the white community, particularly those who have not been a part and understood social justice movements and really understood what my mother said. She said, struggle is a never ending process. Freedom is never really won. You earn it and win it in every generation. So the point is that it doesn't matter whether you're in corporate America. It doesn't matter whether you're an athlete, an entertainer. It doesn't matter whether you're in middle America. It doesn't matter whether you are those essential workers who have kept all of us kind of alive right now, with the being on the front line themselves when we had to shelter in place and couldn't leave and could only go to these essential places because they knew without those essential places, we wouldn't survive. It doesn't matter who we are at the end of the day. This is our collective struggle, and we are collectively called to the freedom struggle. Collectively. And an individual may want to opt out. Many people have opted out saying, social justice, that's for a specific group of people. Many people have opted out in the faith community and said, church doesn't mix with social justice, religion doesn't mix with social justice. But guess what? It doesn't matter what background, what job, what calling, what assignment, what profession you have, you are called to this freedom struggle. And this is a moment that is calling us to the struggle, and it's calling us to use our gifts, our strength, our passion, our talent, everything we can in this moment to rewrite the wrongdoing, to undo it. In fact, you can't undo what has happened, but what we can do is go back and uproot and start a new foundation in love based off of the principles of nonviolence and the steps of nonviolence that Martin Luther King Jr. taught us.
Yeah. So, Dr. King, in a minute, we're going to bring in Vanetta. But in fact, I tell you what, let's go ahead and bring Vanetta in now because I want to talk to you about one of the things. Hey, Dr. West, how are you
Hey
doing?
there.
Hey.
Hey there.
Welcome to this online protest. We want to make sure that we are amplifying all the things the young people out here in the streets doing. We want to let them know that this generation, and you kind of somewhere in between, you're a little younger than me, but this generation has their back. How are you feeling this evening?
I'm feeling great. I just ended a conversation speaking of this topic with about 50 white people about how they can help eradicate racism. So this is a good transition for me.
And so that's what I want to talk about, which is why I wanted to bring Dr. King in, because we've been seeing a real diverse group of young people. And so can both of you, because I know both of you are doing this work, and Dr. King, you've been calling on our white, and I'm saying, when I say this word allies, I'm saying it in the true essence of what an ally is. And I think we need to explore that. Let's talk about what is an ally. And also, Dr. King, can you share with us, and Dr. West, tell us the importance of having the diversity, because this is an hour that we need, as Dr. King, you would say, white people to motivate white people, inspire white people to call up their white friends, to hold white people accountable. So can you kind of share with us your cry, and then Vanetta, some of your the progress you're making, and also calling forth the white community to help and become real allies in this?
So I'm going to let Vanetta talk. I've been talking a lot, and I'll just, dip in and dip out, dip in and dip out.
You've been saying great things. I think it's very important to understand, first of all, that this isn't a Black problem. Sometimes when we talk about racism, we talk about it as though white people need to come in and save us. But all of humanity is suffering because of racism. So even the term ally, it has the connotation of, we have a problem and we need for you to come alongside and help. But white supremacy isn't Black people's problem. It's it becomes our kind of burden and what hurts us and what pains us. But the majority of the onus and the responsibility, and actually the power to end it, is within the white community. And I think that's why we're calling on them to help, because first, more than anything, it's the responsibility. When you see this type of pain that people are enduring, there should be a hunger to help get rid of it. So one of the things I've been calling out of the white people I've been interfacing with is just, where's your hunger? When you see these things happening in the street and happening to people, and when you look at that knee on George Floyd's neck, it shouldn't have even taken that to create hunger. But for a lot of people, it did. That's fine. We all have to have a spark of consciousness. But there should be like a thirst for the eradication of white supremacy and racism. It just should be at this point.
Absolutely.
And I will say that I believe there is, just because of conversations I've been having with, my white brothers and sisters of the faith and with outside the faith. They are really doing some deep soul searching and ready to do something different.
Yes.
And this is a moment that we have to use the opportunity to do what my father said, and that is, we must learn to live together as brothers and sisters, or together we will perish as fools. This is a time that we can ensure that they are learning how to live in a different way. How do you live in a beloved community when you are not the sole race in a community? When there are people in that community who are suffering financially, how do you create a world where people can have equitable circumstances, where people can be respected with dignity? How do you live in a world where you do have different perspectives and different ideologies? And I'm not talking about the kind of extreme ideologies, but you have different ideologies. How do you find win-win solutions? Because that's really what the beloved community is about. And so I've been encouraging, as Benita said, Vanetta, we talk about it all the time. I've been calling my brothers and sisters in the faith community who are white, because I'm a minister of the gospel. For those who may not know that, because I've been CEO of the King Center for the last 8 years, and people may not remember that I am a preacher. But I've been calling them these pastors, many of those who have even supported and have, they're conservative. They voted for Trump. Some of them have relationship with Trump. I've been calling them up. I've been calling them to take a stance, and some of them are making some courageous statements now, and they want to stand for justice. They want to put themselves in the middle of this. I was talking to somebody recently who has a lot of influence, is from a family of great influence in this country through their business, and they were saying they were ready to get uncomfortable. So we can't miss this moment and this opportunity, and know that while we're protesting, we're going to also be having these push sessions. Push. This is what we need. We need to give white America an assignment.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we need to do. That's what I think. We need to give them an assignment because
Yeah.
So,
yes, Benita.
oh no, no, go ahead. Talk about the assignment. What?
No, I know, no.
Because
What
Well,
we
I'm
got
just saying.
questions coming in. So, but that's a good. And you're right. That's a good subject. I think that you're right. We do need to start giving direct actions. What? How do we get involved? A lot of people are asking that. How do we get involved? So, Dr. King, if you gave him one assignment right now, what would that be?
Well. Let me just say this. When Ahmaud Arbery was shot, I gave some of my white brothers and sisters in the faith community an assignment. The first assignment was a little bit hard for them, but they took the second assignment. We have in Atlanta, Georgia, the state of Georgia, we are one of, I think, 5 states that
4.
does not.
Yeah.
I've seen five. I've
Mm.
seen the
Yeah.
4 and I've seen 5, but we are one of the few states that does not have hate crime legislation, and clearly what that act was against Ahmaud Arbery was straight racism, no questions about it. And so I gave them assignment. I need you to work on getting this legislation done. And these are people who have relationship with officials who are in the House of Representatives, or in the Senate, should I say, because that's where it did not pass, who can pick up the phone and call some of these people. And this
Right.
is what I'm talking about using your influence. I'm using my influence with my white brothers and sisters, and I'm pushing them to use their influence and not giving them an excuse. I'm not accepting no. So it's things like that we have to give them an assignment on. And it's different for different people, different for different groups. There's assignments that the business community have. In fact, we're gonna be calling on this online protest for the business community to kind of come on record and speak
But
against
last
police brutality. Hmm? What would you say?
So look, we had a little hiccup there. I think we went out for just a minute, but that's okay. This is a live protest, so that's okay. So, Dr. West, I want to give you a chance to give an assignment, and then we're going to bring on a special guest because
Yeah.
tonight we want to make sure we help people understand that it's very important. One assignment that I'll personally give, that it's very important to use your platforms to amplify the truth and to amplify and share, to share with people the petition that we have, to ensure that they sign the petition, share with their friends, to sign the petition that we have posted on our website. Also, I've gotten text messages and people want to ask questions. So all you have to do is put it on your Facebook stream, and we have people channeling those questions to us. So feel free to ask whatever question you want. We have Dr. King and Dr. West, and so these two doctors are gonna fix it somehow. Okay, so
Oh boy.
we'll make sure we get you some answers, and we also have grown up because if we don't know the answers, we'll say, "Well, we don't
You
know,"
don't know.
and we will point you in the right direction.
I know
So,
that's right.
so Dr. West, before we bring on our special guest, what assignment would you, some practical that we can tell our white brothers and sisters right now in this hour?
Well, I've been sharing the importance of being advocates. We use the word ally, and I think we need to move sometimes to advocates. People who step into places and say, no, let me advocate for what is just and humane for Black people in this situation from the workplace. I mean, I just call on white people to stop saying that they're ignorant about things, because what we can do at this point is take a look around our environments and actually say in our assessments, no, Black people are treated differently here, and believe Black people when they tell you they're treated. Because if I tell you I know somebody's racist towards me, the same way you can feel when somebody doesn't like you, white people, I can feel when somebody doesn't like me. And there are things that come with racism that clearly highlight what it is, that we need to learn what those things are and be well read. I think I encourage white people to be educated, but don't stop being advocates in the midst of being educated. Be educated and be advocates at the same time. And let's get this work done. I think white people need to be 100% all in, seeing what we're seeing in the world. Nobody needs to be looking saying, I'm not so sure if I need to help eradicate racism.
Yeah.
And I think those allies, those advocates include our Asian brothers and sisters and our Hispanic Latinx brothers and sisters, that we all have to get in and really learn about how we got here, because there is a deep, dark history, starting with the first nation, the Native Americans in our country. What we did to them is totally inexcusable. We got to correct that.
Right.
Can I give them 3 books?
Yeah, you can give them 3 books.
Yes.
I want to be sure that we give something, that we're saying, here are some things that can help you see what racism is and help to eradicate it. I do believe.
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah.
This book is helpful. How to Be Anti-Racist by Dr. Ibram Kendi.
Yeah.
It's very important. The New Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander helps us understand systemic racism in ways that I don't think a book has for me before, looking at the school to prison pipeline. And then I encourage everybody overnight, just stay up all night and read Where Do We Go From Here, Chaos or Community by Dr. King, to really understand, for those folks who said he never talked about racism, white supremacy, read what he says about racism, how white America can help, how they failed to help in the past, how they can step up. And he also talks about organizing our strength, not just with direct action, but with programs that can start to strengthen our communities as well. There's something everybody can do. There's something every white person can do. Nobody, based on your gifts and what you bring to the table, should be saying, there's no way I can help.
And I thank you for that. And I want to add to that experience of reading, the experience of going to the soil where there was the first capital of the Confederacy in Montgomery, Alabama. And God sent Martin Luther King Jr., intersected with Rosa Parks, and intersected with so many others down there in Montgomery to birth a new movement. The civil rights movement in Montgomery was on the soils there in Montgomery. Then God used 50 years later Brian Stevenson to build the new way, which is to go back to your foundation, understand how we got here. At the Legacy Museum, from enslavement to mass incarceration, and also a peace and justice memorial to lynching victims. Go to Montgomery, take a trip down there, drive down there, do cross country, so you can have, because when you leave, you're gonna have to do a whole lot of debriefing and meditating and maybe having conversations. You can take a road trip down there. Since we're in COVID right now, I don't know if they're open yet. But when it's back open, please make it your business to go to that museum, because there's nothing like encountering that story that really connects the dots as to how white supremacy was birthed and continues to persist in our nation.
You know,
Be
there's a
educated and
saying.
activist at the same time. No, don't stop working. Come
Yeah.
Right,
on, people.
exactly.
Sign
Yeah.
this petition. Call to
Yes.
get
Do
this Arizona
Please,
Anti-Chokehold Act.
please sign. Yes.
exactly.
Thank you, Vanetta. Please
Yeah.
sign the petition. And we have some really great comments. People are really being moved and touched by the conversation. They're saying we need to correct our past wrongs. And we've had some of our white brothers and sisters. Thank you, Sharon, for that. We've had some of our white brothers and sisters say thank you for the assignments, and they're looking for their assignments. And I want to add the color of law to that. Jane Elliott recommended to
Yes.
me, and I want to make sure add that as well. We add that as well. And I want to say one thing that I found very instrumental in building authentic relationships that move people forward is that while we want to have these safe conversations, sometimes that safe feels like a real sanitized space where people are
Mm-hmm.
afraid to be courageous and say what needs to be said. And just recently, a person that I was working with, we had a real courageous conversation. And sometimes we're afraid to have those conversations because we're afraid to offend our black sister, our white brother, or what have you. But if you're thinking it, and you keep
Mhm.
carrying those thoughts and you don't deal with them, then we're going to keep on with these underlying issues. And it's very
That's right.
important for us to create spaces that are courageous, for us to have a very courageous conversation and deal with the truth, deal with the past, the pains of our past, so we can be courageous to move forward with our future. So I just want
Let
to
me
share
say,
that. Go ahead.
I think I just want to make this statement as brief as it is. I'll take your discomfort over my dying any day.
Yes, amen.
And I think we have to get to a place where people whining and talking about discomfort is really what it is. Because anytime you go through a process of purging an ideology out of a system or out of a mind, it's going to hurt, because you're getting rid of something that may have been in your family for hundreds of years, a system that has benefited you, something that has felt good. Power doesn't feel bad. And
Right.
racism and white supremacy are power hungry and power driven. And to
So
start
Right.
to let go of power is a painful thing. And yeah, it's going to be uncomfortable, but Black people are uncomfortable every day.
yeah.
Exactly.
And so
And
we
and
have to have those hard conversations where we say, okay, well, you're going to be uncomfortable right now.
and
We're
I
not
and I just
stopping.
want to add in nonviolence, we're not trying to destroy any people.
No.
Mm-mm.
Nonviolence seeks to defeat injustice and not people. And I want to
Absolutely.
I want to emphasize that because somebody just made a comment about the courageous actions of some of the law enforcement officers who've been joining in some of the marches and protests around this country. And I'm saying that because oftentimes when we're dealing with this issue, it's so painful when one person commits an atrocious act like the officer did
Yes.
with well, we can just
George
call the
Floyd. Yeah.
names, Eric
Yeah.
Garner, all the
All
way
of them.
up
Yeah.
Yes.
to the
Ahmaud
Breonna, and I had to
Arbery,
call them Ahmaud Arbery, and
Breonna
Breonna.
Taylor.
I had to call the women now, Sandra Bland. There's so many of them, all the way up to George Lloyd. You get angry at the entire law enforcement community, but we're really angry at the system and the system of law enforcement. Every police officer doesn't have evil intent and doesn't conduct their posture behavior like that. And so we do have to weed out the bad ones, ensure that there's training and retraining and taking people and sending them back to training and ensuring that we don't let certain people come into this job, because if you have PTSD, PTSD, you don't need to be a law enforcement officer. You got to get some help with that first. And so, I just wanted to make that clear. Nonviolence, hear me. Nonviolence seeks to destroy, defeat injustice, not people.
Not people.
People are not the target. Yes, he has to be locked up. There are consequences for those actions in taking George Lloyd's life. But we are not trying to destroy all police officers or police officers. We're trying to put justice in business in the criminal justice system.
Yeah, and
Thank you.
that's painful. Even that's hard to realize too, King, that even when your intent is not to destroy people, just the separation from ideology hurts. So it may feel like you're being attacked, but in actuality, to deconstruct thinking, and you know, I wholeheartedly subscribe
Right.
to the third principle of nonviolence. But even for me personally, when I've had to get rid of bigotry in my own mind, it's hurt. So it
Yeah.
feels like you're under construction and deconstruction.
Yeah. Yeah. There's gonna be a little discomfort and pain, and you know, but if look at it this way, if it feels like a knife, it's like a surgeon's knife, and not somebody's trying
Right,
to kill you. It's
right,
somebody's trying to heal you. So I know
exactly.
Ronnie's waiting to join us. I know you got comments coming in. Somebody wants to know where they go to sign the petition.
So they
Give
go
me.
to the King Center / online protest. So the petition is there. Just scroll down. You'll see the petition. Justice for George Floyd. So yeah, just if you have a problem, I will ask that we will put it in the chat room, not the chat room, sorry, the online chatting. If you would, Tara, some of the people who are helping us out, we got all the kind of people online with you, so they'll share with you how to get that petition, and we'll be sure to put it on the King Center's website as well. So we will be here every day for 7 days from 7 to 8. But right now, we want to bring on someone who's very special. Dr. King, do you want to share who we're bringing on? You want me to go ahead?
You can go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. So we want to make
You want
sure
to answer
every.
that?
Oh, yeah. Let's do the moves.
Oh
Listen.
no.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
I don't know
I
what's
kind of lost
happening.
some of my moves, but listen, one of the things we want to do tonight is to share with you the power of using your platform. So each night we're going to have special guests. We're going to be bringing in Nancy. What's Nancy's last name? Vanetta. Nancy
Gron.
Gron
Nancy
from
Lee Gron.
Nancy Lee Gron from General Hospital, Melissa Milano. We're going to bring in Ben Stiller. We have a lot of guests. Bone Crusher said he wants to get on here.
Oh wow.
HipHop.com. Yeah, so we have people who are saying, hey, we want to come on and share our platform and amplify this message. So without further ado, we want to ask none other than Ronnie from
Mhm.
Bell Bib DeVoe, new
Yes,
edition.
yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
That's what
Yeah.
I'm talking about.
Take us
Right,
way back.
Take us
right,
way back. How are you
right,
Yeah.
doing? First of all, let us
Welcome.
check in. We want to check in
right.
with you
Hmm.
because we know that we're right here in the ATL and people all
That's right.
over see what's going on in this country. So we want to do a check in from dealing with the pandemic to looking at our brother George Floyd. Uh,
Right.
Absolutely, breath get taken away in front of our faces
Yeah.
on television. How are you doing as a black man in America?
Um, Honestly, it's not good. It's not good. Man, it's painful. It's painful right now. And I'm a new dad. My sons will be 3 years old on July 14th. And to know that they may face something in 2020, fast forward, another 18 years for them that we can't correct now and we haven't been able to correct for years upon years upon years. Um, what is the reason for that? The separation, the divide of humanity, and then ultimately when you dig into the individuality or the races, for me, I'm a black man, and it's sad that police look at us not as humans but as a threat. And I was watching a video earlier today where the gentleman was like, you're citing me on a blinker infraction, but then you want to step to the car with your gun drawn. Like, where does that start from? Like, why does it start there? It's almost the
Right.
aggression, the fear, and however that is built into the system on the white side and the black side, we got to figure out a way to erase it to where the tables turn to the other side. Because right now, it's not about just us that are going to be able to fix this problem. And I love the fact that I see, some of my white, Asian, Indian brothers and sisters out there on the front line. and as long as they're in it for the right purpose in the long haul, and they have us as the oppressed for many years, our best interests at heart,
Yeah.
then I'm fine with that. Because other than that, you feel like it's warranted, some of the things that are going on in America. Because if you don't give somebody hope, if you don't give somebody a job, if you don't give somebody confidence in the ability to know that they can do all of these different things, from having health care and the right education and all of the above, the books that Vanetta talked about reading, if these things are not accessible to them, then when you back them into a corner, either they die or they come out fighting. And who's to say, how you're supposed to come out fighting? Is it tearing some SHIT down, or is it, quelling your emotions? Because we can't act from emotion. Some irrational decisions are made, when you act in emotion, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, you get to the point where enough is enough. So there's so much going on in my mind. That's a loaded question, Benita. When you
No,
say, how are
it,
you?
You know,
And and
yeah.
Dr. King, like, just your energy. I saw you on CNN a day and a half ago with Don Lemon, and the words that you spoke and the energy that you have and the spirit that comes across the television is something that I've always said to myself, coming from your family history and your lineage and how you've been able to take that on. It jumps off the screen. So anything that I can do as far as my platform is concerned, and the people that we've been able to dance for and entertain, that we can no longer do now because of COVID-19, like, it's real in the field out here. Like,
Right.
yeah.
since the Great Depression, right? In the 20s, we look at unemployment is crazy. And I'm included in that, right? Like, I don't stand away from what's going on for everybody in America right now. So, some real conversations have to be had. Sorry about that.
No,
So,
thank you.
so,
You got me having to make. I don't have to do a makeup check.
Yeah,
So I know
come on.
Doctor
so,
Ronnie, Doctor
Uh-huh.
King has to leave, but Doctor King, I know
yeah.
you want to say something real
Yeah,
quick.
Uh-huh.
I want to thank you for just sharing your heart and soul tonight,
Right,
because this is why we created this platform, for
right,
people to just lift up their sentiments, their feelings, their anguish. This
right.
is a safe platform because we know this is some deep stuff, and it's dug into some of the really
Yeah,
difficult emotions for so
yes,
many of us. So thank you for sharing with us,
no
and
doubt.
I appreciate your support. And I just wanted to
Yes.
leave this with people because
Uh-huh.
this is something I had to learn, and I want people don't I don't want people to ever forget. My father was assassinated, so I lost
Yes,
my daddy at 5.
right.
George Lloyd has a 6-year-old daughter.
George Floyd.
I feel for her, and the journey that I went through losing him, and then my uncle who was mysteriously found dead in the swimming pool because he knew something about my father's
Mm.
assassination. My grandmother who was shot in church when I was 11 years old. I had a lot of anger in my life, and I've had this journey of dealing with my anger and wanting to destroy people, and probably if I had a weapon would have destroyed people.
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
but there's something that my mother said to me when I got to my 30s. I was driving one day and I was trying to make this decision, and I was pissed off to the nth
Hmm.
degree. And my mother stopped me dead in the middle, and he said, baby, never make a decision in your anger. I
Yeah.
want to leave you with that,
Hmm.
because we have to learn to manage these feelings that are coming from this
Hmm.
collective oppression and pain and
Hmm.
mistreatment that we have received. But if we do not act in the right frame of mind, we can
That's right.
create some irreversible harm.
Hmm.
And so
Hmm.
please
Yeah.
experience the emotion. I said that today. I'm going to be on the Ellen show on Friday, and I said it's okay for us to experience these emotions, but don't become the emotion.
Yeah, because listen, we're living in a police state right now. We're
So,
living in a
so
military state
Ronnie,
right now.
before
Go
you do
ahead. Go
that,
ahead.
Dr. King really has to leave. She has
Yeah,
to
I'm
get
getting
on
ready to be
another
on.
show.
Yeah,
So,
I'm getting
but
ready to. I want
Hmm.
to tell people in case they switch off of here. WSB is having a town hall tonight in Atlanta, and I got to sign on now
Hmm.
to join that town hall. So thank you, Ronnie. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
people. Thank you, my
And
brothers and sisters, for joining us. And we'll be back tomorrow at 7 o'clock on this online protest. And Vanetta, thank you so much. Thank you, Drew, and your team. And I'm signing off. And
And
we'll see you
she's
tomorrow.
signing off, but we want you to stay here. We got a few more
Yes.
minutes with
Yes.
Ronnie. Want to continue to just have him to share with us. And Dr.
Yes.
West, I'm going to allow you have something burning in your heart you want to ask Ronnie about.
As my mom is calling in, I'm gonna tell her that I'm calling her. You know,
Hey,
my
this is a
mama,
protest,
Mama
so
Florence, I love
we're
you. We
online and we're
protesting
sharing
online.
real
I'll call you
live.
right back.
And
Love
while
you all.
Ronnie is talking to his mama,
I said, I know you watching. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
so no, but while you're doing it, please invite your listeners, people on your who follow you to share. Make sure you comment, share this post on your platform. We want to get everyone involved. We want to get you involved in signing this petition. We want to get you involved in contacting your legislators about
Yes.
4408 HR 4408. We want to resurrect this legislation, and we want them to not only resurrect it, we want it supported and we want it passed. We want to ban the chokehold. Anything that stops the air passage of any human being is inhumane.
Right.
You can detain people without taking their breath away. So, Vanette, I'm going to toss it to you. We got Ronnie here. We're going to hang out with him for about 9 more minutes. Well, about 5 more minutes, and then we're going to close on out.
Listen,
So, go ahead.
I'm just looking at him trying to stop myself from singing Poison, or I'm
Right,
still
let's
a
go.
Candy Girl or something. But I got myself together.
Right.
I think it's phenomenal, this platform. And I think it's important before we leave, I don't know if you all did it before I got on, to share, if it's okay, a few things about nonviolence that are misunderstood, because this is a nonviolent online protest. Is that all right?
So yeah, we could do that. So you and I could wrap up with that, but we want to make sure anything else we have to ask Ronnie, because one of the things, so one of the things I want want to make sure, Ronnie, is that you share with people the importance of maximizing their platform, and then who can you challenge tonight? Each night we're going to ask our celebrities to challenge someone to maximize their platform and amplify this message. So could you briefly share with us about, a couple minutes?
Yeah. Listen, I challenge Ronnie, Bobby, Ricky, and Mike, and Ralph, right? And Johnny.
Yeah. Thank you.
No, honestly, in my happiness, and in my pain, because we can experience those emotions, within a split second of each other, right? This is economic as well. Where do we go from here? From the protest, right? To forming the right strategies that we have to put in place to make sure that we're taking care of our own. And it's wild that every time it seems like we get to a point where it's manifesting itself in the way of Black Wall Street or the Black Panther Party, the initial, feeding kids and protecting yourself and being nonviolent ultimately, unless somebody comes up against you. All of these different things have been infiltrated or discredited or bombed, even at the end of the day, or set ablaze, right? It's economic. We got to figure out how to come together and pool our resources. There are Black banks out there, Citizens Trust, One United, like there are so many other entities that are accessible or at our disposal that we can spend our Black dollar on and allow it to recycle time after time before it goes outside of our community, which happens in other communities. So to me, it's that. To me, it is about defending yourself and showing people that, look, it can get ugly, but ultimately, like Dr. King said, reverse and don't act in emotion. And there are so many people that are stepping up. T.I., Killer Mike, with the mayor of Atlanta. I was watching LL Cool J and Ice-T, who had a MC battle back in the day. They were going at each other's throats, but they're now, just coming together and using their platform to shed a light on what we can do as far as the injustices are concerned. So I can't wait to sign a petition. I'm about to look for it as soon as somebody need to put up a link right there so we can make it easily accessible. And
And
everything
we
else.
will definitely do that. Thank you.
Yeah, yes, and everything else that I need to do to continue on in forward progress, because it ain't about us. We got to do this for 2 generations from now, because that's what
Absolutely.
and it's not everybody, but that's what our oppressor is thinking. They're thinking 25 years from now. They're putting stuff in place for 2045. So
Right.
I love y'all, and I'm here to do what I got to do. I'm here to do my part.
Thank you.
And I don't claim to know it all, but hey, I'm learning from individuals such as yourself.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
You've had me in tears tonight because you are my brother. And once
Thank
when
you.
we realize that whether it's Eric Garner, whether it's
Yeah.
George Floyd,
George
Ahmaud
Floyd,
Arbery,
Ahmaud
Sandra
Arbery,
Bland,
Sandra Bland,
Breonna
Breonna
Taylor,
Taylor.
when
Yeah.
we think of Trayvon Martin and Mike
Tamir
Brown,
Rice.
when we
Right.
say their
It's
names,
too many
Hmm.
names.
Yeah.
it's
That's the
I
too
painful
said that.
thing.
I
it's
was walking the other
too
day, right?
many
It's
names.
oh man,
Painful.
it is. It is.
Yeah. And
It
it's
is.
time to, as Mrs. King said, cut off the chain of violence. And so just love you, my brother. Thank you
Thank you.
for just dropping everything and saying, you know what, this matters.
It
And
does.
and you just jumped online with us, and we really thank you tonight. So
Yeah.
God bless you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Ronnie.
And we love
Love
you.
Thank
y'all.
you.
Sporty Rich, black on, boom.
That's right. That's a
What
great
I'm
way.
talking
That's a
about.
great action.
We
Make
gotta
sure
keep
you
it black.
support black businesses as well.
That's
Thank
right.
you so much, Ronnie.
Voila.
Thank you, Ronnie.
So Vanetta, that was really amazing. I mean,
Was.
to hear our brother, um, just to be vulnerable and to share with everybody as a black man in
Mhm.
America, this is how I feel. So I'm gonna ask you. You're right. This platform is about the King Center. We're aligning with our young brothers and sisters out in the street, and we honor the fact that you are bold and resilient, and that you have decided that we're not going to allow this world to remain the same. We were about to go back from coronavirus and enter into this world trying to be the same, and these young
Mm.
people said no,
No.
not anymore. So, Vanetta, as we wrap up, what is a takeaway of nonviolence that we can share? Just a nugget. We're going to be here for 7 days, so we're going to have an
Right.
opportunity to share philosophy, methodology. But can you give us a golden MLK nonviolent nugget to just take away with us this evening?
Absolutely. I think the main thing, based off of what I'm seeing on social media, we've been raising this quote by Dr. King: "A riot is the language of the unheard." And I think it's important to remember about Dr. King that he understood where people were coming from. He understood the state of humanity. And he still said he believed nonviolence is the way, but he wasn't dismissive of people. So sometimes people try to use Dr. King to dismiss people. And at the King Center, as trainers, we just try to not be in that space, and to absolutely say to the young people out there and to the older people, middle-aged people who are protesting, thank you for your passion. But there is a way with nonviolence that allows us to eradicate hate and racism without becoming tools for hate and injustice ourselves. And I think that's the powerful thing about nonviolence, that it does say in its third principle, we need to get rid of this injustice, but I don't want to get rid of the person. And I think that's important
Absolutely.
to remember. And the last thing I'll say about nonviolence is that it's powerful, it's strong, it's strategic. It's not a punk philosophy. People may think that it's not weak.
Yes.
Nonviolence takes courage, it takes strategy, it sits down and becomes informed and becomes educated and develops a process to achieve win-win outcomes, from legislation to Supreme Court decisions to laws changing in all facets of government. It is a powerful tool, as Dr. King says. It's not sterile passivity. It's a powerful moral force that makes for social transformation. So, very important that we
Thank you.
understand. If we say we don't agree with it, that's one thing if we've studied it. But it's another thing to have studied it and to say this is what it is, specifically Kingian nonviolence.
Thank you so much, Dr. West. So, listen, we're about to wrap up for this evening, but we need you to keep it going. to share, to post. Let everybody know that we're going to be here every day for the next 6 days. We're here 7 days straight. Today is day one. We are online. We are with you. You're in the street. Some people are sheltering in place, but we are with you online saying we got your back because Black Lives Matter. You matter. Every person that's joining hand in hand, not those that are destroying, but those that are disrupting, ready to dismantle so that we can rebuild. And when I say disrupt and dismantle, I'm talking about systemic racism. Those that are saying right now, enough is enough. We got your back. We're here online. We'll be here until next Monday, which will be the last day of George Floyd's funerals. So we'll be right here with you. Dr. King will be here, and we'll have some more celebrities checking in. Thank you for coming, just logging on with us this evening. Please sign the petition. Let's ban the chokehold. We will demand the ban. Thank you. This is a King Center production. Thank you, Drew, for this amazing idea. We are here. Please join us tomorrow. Thank you, Dr. West. And we'll be back tomorrow with Dr. Bernice A. King. Love you. Stay strong, stay safe, and stay well. Until tomorrow.